Before we start implement our associative array, no matter we use the array implementation or linked list implementation, we need to think about what public member function should we provide. So we see here, for example, if I have an associative array, I want to save the student test score. So I want to access each test score by student name. So then each test score, I only can allow the integer. So I declare an associative array is the test score. So like earlier we say, we can access by the student name. So I can assign John's test score is 96. So later actually we change John's test score. So then they increment by 2, so become 98. So then the associative array, we also want to know, after if I try to add more students in there, at the end I want to know so far I have how many student test score. So that's here is the test score dot size. So you can see here the size for the value for the array before, we never use that. The size member function is only for the queue and the stack. Because we try to push, then we don't know how many elements we already add into the stack or queue. So we have dot size. Before for array, we only have the dot capacity. We know what is the total capacity for the array. But now here, because associative array, we can access by the key. So we add the value one by one is according to the key. We will lost track so far how many valid elements are in our associative array. So that's why similar to the stack and the queue. So we specify we have a size member function. So right, besides your square bracket can be a setter function to assign the value. But sometimes also can just display the value, right? So then that's our square bracket setter function. So then remember your associative array is added by the key. So I want to check, do I have the test score? I already add John's test score. So before that, I display the John's test score. I can using the content key member function to check this associative array. Do I have the student called John? So this we call the content key member function. So this content key member function actually is a return value will be the bool. If I have John, I return true. So then I try to check, do I have Jen? So we didn't add the Jen yet, right? So the content key there will return you false. So sometimes when we want to display the value from the key, we can check, do we have this key or not? So then of course you can add the key, the value. You can check the content key. You also can delete a key. So when we want to delete an element, we're using the key to delete that value. So we call the delete key. So the John actually being removed from our associative array. And also we can call clear to clear all the content. So the other one is here, you will see this one is we never see, we call the keys member function. So why this keys member function, we need that? Because one thing is, when we add the key one by one, at the end, you will lose track so far how many value and the key pair we have in the associative array, right? Even you have the size, but in order to access the value, we have to have the key. So that's why here we need to find a way to have all the keys in a collection. So that's why when you have your member function called keys, so these keys actually they will return a queue. So this queue actually is contain all the key in the associative array. Of course, this queue can be the value saved for any data type, right? So this data type is according to what your key data type is, we're using the queue. So people will say, why I need to use the queue? Can I return the array? Yeah, but one thing is just we do that. So the queue actually on the other hand is we can try to maintain the first in, first out sequence. So that's why when you have your keys, when you invoke your keys member function, you return the queue, right? So this queue also contains all the keys according to which one is the first one adding into the associative array. They will be the beginning in the queue. So which one is the last one adding to the associative array? They will be at the end. So I hope that kind of makes sense for this example. So the most important thing is here we will think about what member function we need to have to implement our associative array. So that's why let me show you here what is those public member function we need to provide for our associative array. So the first thing, of course, we need to have our constructor, default constructor. If this one is for the array implementation, we start from the capacity equal to 2. So since no matter for the dynamic array or linked list implementation, they are all the dynamic memory. So we do have the copy constructor. We do have assignment operator function. We do have the destructor member function. So we still have our square bracket scatter function and the setter function. But you will see the return type still the same. So when we try to get the value from the associative array, we return the copy of the value for getter function. When we're using the setter function, we will return the value reference for the square bracket setter function. But before, for the regular array, we're using the int, the index. But here, we no longer use the index, we use the key. So this key can be any data type, so we use the k to refer to that. So since your key can be any data type, so possibly they can be object. So we're using the constant reference. So here is, earlier we say the contain key. We have the key. Passing the key, we will check if this key has that in the associative array. So we return the bool data type. We didn't try to change any data, so that's why this one is also the getter function. So then we have the delete key. If you specify the key, I will remove this key and the value from the associative array. So this one will be a setter function. So then right, we have the size. So this one is getter function as well, because depends on now we see how many key and the value pair we have in our associative array. So then we have the clear member function. The clear should be the setter because the clear will clear everything from the array. So then the last one you see here is earlier I told you, we need to have the queue contain all the key. So we call the keys function. So since we didn't try to change anything, so of course this one is a getter function. So this one is all the public member function we will have. So now here, if we want to implement using the array implementation, so let me show you, here is the public member function. So what is the array implementation for the associative array?